Alright, so we got bag F and G opened up, and start cranking out the rear end. Let's see, kit setup here, stock is just center on the C and the D. I run the wider pivot setup, so my C block, I have center height pin all the way out. D block, I am all the way outside on the pivot and double dot down. So that's what I'm building my car with. I run the kit -1 blocks, so I'm not running like the optional -2 blocks, just the -1 blocks. Gonna go ahead, put the C block in. I use the steel screws here on the C block. Don't want to run those in all the way with the drill. Put them in with hand. With hand. Put them in by hand. Nice. I guess next, kind of work on the arm. Get my Tekno shock tool out. Balls in. When you're looking at these sway bar mounts, one side there's no like exterior line. One side there's kind of like a ring around the outside a little bit more. That's the side you always want to pop the balls in on. Pop the little one in, which is the bottom side. Pop top side in. Make sure they're nice and smooth when they go in. If they're rough, pop them back out. Maybe there was something inside there, or it, you know, went in crooked or something like that. Boom. Got both of those in. We can go ahead, screw these onto the arms. I use the steel screws here as well, making sure I use the right length. I believe it's a 20. Let's see, 1529, 1529, 20 mil screw. That's what I was thinking. Running in just a little with the drill. Snug it up with the hand. These don't really need to be very tight, just barely snug them in. Move on to the other side. Tap it with the drill. Finish it with the hand. Like I said, I'm kind of crazy, so I always like to clean up my arms a little bit. Don't cut yourself with an X-Acto blade. That wouldn't be cool. Alright, now go ahead, put all the inserts in. We have the kind of standard, if you built the 2.0, inserts on the inside of the arms. Put those in. And then it's 2.1, we have new rear arm, new rear hub with this car. And with that, we have inserts for the outside arms as well. Slide those in. Now I will go ahead, do the droop screws. Make sure you actually use a droop screw. Make sure it's got the hex on the bottom side. Just kind of guess where these go. I always just kind of screw them all the way in. Just, I don't know. I know that's not where it'll be, but that's just kind of what I do. Alright, got those. Now, let's move on and start on the hubs. Actually, with this car, I am doing CVs. The 2.1 comes with unis, which is great. I think that is the right call. That's what pretty much we'll use at the majority of the racetracks and conditions. So you're gonna see this and be like, oh, come on, bro. With the 2.0, it came with CVs. You guys are telling us to buy unis. Now you're doing a build video with the 2.1. It comes with unis, and you're putting CVs in it. That is because, like I said, this is my world's car. Going to a unique track in Redovan, and it's going to need CVs there, just with the high speed, the high traction, going to need the more support. So, gonna put CVs in there, and I didn't get all the parts I needed. So, let me go grab them. All right, got all my parts to build these CVs now. So, hub, put the, I don't know what you call that, bearing spacer maybe, technical term. Pop these bearings in. These sweet new 2.1 rear hubs. Already got my upper hub inserts in. Let's see if we can, oh yeah, there we go. So I got the 3 in the bottom, 2 on the top. I will be using bottom row outside for my setup here. So I build the CVs. I always do the pin, the 2 pins lining up. That's just how I build mine. I use this magical mystery red oil, which is just Marvel mystery oil. It's what I build my CVs with. I don't use a grease or anything like that. I just use pretty light oil. I feel like it works really good. Doesn't gunk up, get dirt all caught in there. And you can reapply it throughout a race weekend and it's not gonna change the handling of your car very much at all. So that's kind of why I feel it works really well. It's what I use on my truck, which we run CVs on all the time. And I think my truck works pretty good. So I think this stuff works well. I'm building 4 just because I'm going to be building the front end next anyways. So get everything ready. Alright, boom. Got those done. So now put it through. Got these sweet new +1 hexes that come in the 2.1 kit. Line up the pin. You want to make sure flat spot is out for the set screw. For these set screws, I will use a blue Loctite. since all my fingers are busy. Just run the Loctite through the threads on the towel. Like I said before, you don't want to just have a big blob of Loctite on any of your screws when you put them in, because then Loctite might go where it's not supposed to go. Use my Tekno wheel wrench to put over the hex, get that nice and tight. That thing feels nice and smooth. Go on over to the next hub. Hex goes on, pin goes in. Make sure the flat side is sticking out where you can see it. A little bit of Loctite, blue Loctite. Now, snug these up nice and tight. Don't want them coming loose, which with the buggy, even if those were to come loose, that pin really can't come out, so you really don't have to worry about it. Chuggy with certain hexes you can, but I don't really want anything coming loose on my cars, so get that good and tight. So next thing, guess I'll peek through this manual a little to see kind of, guess it says to kind of put the sway bar on, and put the arms on next, which we can go ahead and do that. We can go ahead and put the arms on. Sometimes fresh hinge pins be kind of sticky. Spray a little bit of motor spray on a rag. Clean those up. Sometimes they have just like the machine oil on them. Go ahead and do these outers. When I'm rebuilding my cars, what I like to do if I'm not putting new hinge pins in, chuck a hinge pin into a drill, use some fine Scotch-Brite, clean those bad boys right up. You want them nice and mirrory, shiny. So now, I put the hinge pin through. Make sure you want this thing just to fall right through. Sometimes it's like those inserts, the bushings might not go through, you know, totally straight. So when you put it in, if it's kind of tight, grab both ends, just kind of move it like that, get them lined up how they should be. These falling right through the arms how they should. So I will go ahead, position these bad boys to go on. My C block is already on. So push those in. Then I will go ahead put the D block on. There we go. I'll put the screw through the back. I just decided just to do this one by hand just because it's short. And you'll see Tekno, they like to give a little bit extra room, so my arm can move up and down when that's all the way screwed in and in place. So a little bit of slop, you know, not a big deal at all. I want it to be a little bit tighter than that, so I will grab some clutch shims. Should have already had those. grab me some of the large clutch shims. I'll just toss some out here. This Tekno, I think, only offers one thickness of clutch shims, but I have some Tekno, have some Ultimate, and they offer some different sizes, so I'm not sure which sizes I'm gonna grab out first try. The Tekno ones work really well. I think they're like a 0.02 or something like that. Normally what I do is use 2 of those on each side. So that's what I'm trying to grab, is kind of my middle sized ones. Alright. Pull this D plate back off. Sometimes with new inserts, hinge pins can be tight. So I put 2 of those shims. If you didn't quite know what I was talking about, it's just the clutch shims, the bigger ones that go like over the crankshaft. Alright. Let's see. Oh yeah, I think we're gonna be dialed in with that. Don't run that all the way in. Snug it up by hand. Check it. As you can see, still has a little play up and down. You don't want 0 play there because it'll get bound up. But I don't quite like that much play, so I do the 2 on each side. This thing smooth. Next thing the manual kind of says is to do the sway bar, so we can go ahead and do that. It's pretty awesome. Wasn't sure if they would include them. They have the new rubber sealed bearings, which I feel like last a little bit longer for the sway bar. I'm gonna use the aluminum sway bar holders, I guess. I don't know what you call that. So I'm gonna use some Loctite. Put some Loctite on these set screws. Set screw on. I run a 2.5 rear bar, so it's coming with the right bar. Put that in place. Slide sway bar through. Make sure if you use these aluminum pieces here for the sway bars that you use blue Loctite. Don't use red because it's a 1.5, so you'll strip it out. The plastic ones work great. I actually normally always run the plastic ones, but just kind of feel like using these aluminum ones. You want to try to make sure you center your sway bar on there as best you can, which I think I'm fairly close. I think I'm just a smidge off. And with this, kind of like doing the pinion gear, you don't want to smash these sway bar bearing holders, I'll call it. I don't know the technical term there. You don't want to smash those up against the bearings, but then you also don't want your sway bar to be, you know, moving a whole bunch side to side. So you just got to kind of feel it out. You want it to be nice and smooth, to just flop down, not be bound up at all. And then on the other side of the sway bar, put Loctite on those set screws as well. Kind of dab it on your finger or whatever. Like I said, you don't need a whole bunch of excess Loctite. Use blue on these, you don't want to use red. You're only going to use red in a couple spots. I use red for the center drive shafts and then basically for my engine mounts under the chassis. Everything else I use blue. So boom, sway bars on, looking smooth. Now we're going to move on to these rear hubs. So I always check my hubs, put the hinge pin in, and they're super tight in these hubs. So I use a drill bit, which is a 964. Feel like that's a good size. Open these up just a little. Still a little snug. Run it through a few times. The Tekno material is a little hard to drill sometimes. If you're having to ream something out and you're having a hard time with it, I've actually found that freezing the plastic works really, really well. I think our plastic's different than some of the other, I would say most of the other manufacturers. I think that's a really good benefit on the durability of our car. But it is just a little different. Like, it doesn't file down, sand down, or even like ream that easily. So if you're having a really hard time, you can freeze the plastic part just for like 5-10 minutes in the freezer, pull it out, it will ream a lot easier. I think these are going to be fine. I just got to do it a couple times. There we go. Like I said, you always just kind of want it to fall through. So that one's good. Now let's try this one. Yeah, this one's not as tight, but still tight. This is something I always check when I'm maintaining my car also. Pull these hinge pins out. Clean the hinge pin, like I said, with the Scotch-Brite, and then I check it in the hub, make sure it just falls through. Sometimes you'll have to clean it out again with the drill bit. And there we go. Falls right through. So we got that dialed in. So now let's see. I just put a nut on one side. Well, I'll put a little blue Loctite. I don't really Loctite these like every time I take them on and off, but when I first do a kit, I'll put a little bit of Loctite on these threads for the hinge pins, for the outer hinge pins. Put one nut on. Then for my setup, I run my hub fully forward, which is 3 mil behind, 0 mil in front. Put that through. And here, depending on how much kind of slop there is with that hub, you know, as your inserts kind of wear out, as like the arms kind of wear in, things like that, I'll use those same clutch shims to shim that just a little bit tighter, kind of like the rear arms. You don't want them to be tight. You definitely need it to move back and forth a little bit, but I don't really want mine to move like a ton, so I'll use that to shim. But fresh kit, this thing doesn't need those. I'm cool with the amount of gap I have, so tighten that up. This thing's nice and free. Kind of give it the little wiggle test. Hub's super free. One hub down. Let's move on to the next hub. Same thing. 3mm shim behind. Just wonder what it says for the kit build. They do 2 behind, 1 in front. You know, depends on what setup you're running. I find it that my car works best if I just run it all the way forward. Kind of gives me the best steering feel. If I run it back a little bit, just kind of lacks some rotation. All right, there we go. And this thing's flying together already. Not sure what the next steps are gonna be. Probably turnbuckles. Oh man, rear end, boom. Looking good, looking good. Stoked on this thing. Bust out the manual here. Yeah, it's saying rear turnbuckles. I'm gonna skip the rear turnbuckle and just do the front, and then I will do all the turnbuckles at one time because I'm crazy like that. So, yep, we're just gonna move on to the front end. For the A and B block, it's got my settings on that I use. So actually I guess I need to crack open a fresh bag. Bag H here. All right guys, we are back working on the front end here. I opened up the bags. I think it's bag H and I, what I opened up. So getting ready to finish up the front end. Got the bearings in the new spindle already. And again, kind of like I said already, I'm building this car with CVs, not unis. So different bearings. Already got these CVs built up, so might as well finish putting these bad boys together. Running, maybe I can't put these together because I don't have the front hexes yet. Thought I opened the hexes in that package. Oh, ha, I did. They're right in front of me. All right. Sorry, got a little discombobulated on the build. Had to go get the kids from school, do a couple JTP orders, and now we're back. So, warning, children might run down during this video, not sure. All right, set screw. Just like before, blue Loctite. Just gonna go ahead and put one in that CV. So that one's ready to go. Get this one going. Can't wait to get this thing done. Should have it all done and on the track on Wednesday. Probably have it all done and go to the track tomorrow, but tomorrow is Tuesday and my kids are back in their school. They do a homeschool academy type thing, so they only go to school Monday and Wednesday. So Tuesday is my day with the kids. I think we're gonna do some mountain biking for some PE and some stuff like that. And I gotta drive my piston sleeves down to the guy that does my engine work for me to get pinched so that they're all ready for the Worlds. All right, got those set there. Let's go ahead and just prep these sway bars here. Guess I could have already done this stuff before starting the video, but I haven't really done a build video before. I did a Facebook Live once, like a couple different, did it in like sections, but did a whole entire build on Facebook Live. That was pretty cool. And I kind of showcased everything there. Trying to make this one a little quicker where I'm not like opening all the bags and kind of trimming, but showing you still the whole process. So, and I'll go ahead, get the set screws out to put some Loctite on. Blue Loctite on all these set screws for the sway bars. And I will start prepping these arms. Put the droop screws in. Make sure you grab the correct screw that has the Allen head on the threaded side of the screw so you can adjust your droop, which is a pretty cool feature. Back in the day, we didn't have those. We just used like big set screws, but they kind of wore the chassis more than what we have these days, which I think works quite a bit better. Put the arm inserts into the arms. You will notice these new 2.1 front arms are modified to get the clearance from the Ackerman screw, which is pretty awesome. So don't have to worry about that anymore. No need to bust out the Dremel and get clearance. All right, so now I'm looking for two 20 mil screws. Those are these bad boys. Put the sway bars on. Don't run those all the way in with the drill. Don't have to be crazy tight either. Just snug them up in there. Love building new kit. Don't really build new kits all that often. I started the year with some new kits this year, which was nice. I think maybe actually my new kits were for DNC. So almost started the year with new kits. Guess we'll pull this out. Let's see the order they have us going. Yeah, put the arms on, get the A and B block on, get the sway bar on. So the kit does my A and B setup, which is full up in the A, center in the B. Just like the rear C and D blocks, these A and B blocks are now a -1. So to kind of match what we did on the 2.0, we run them up 1 millimeter. I don't feel like running the A and B -1 really works that good. The balance kind of feels a little bit funky, feels a little bit off. So I run mine, and that's how the kit setup recommends, is running it up 1 millimeter, kind of compared to where we ran the 2.0 A and B blocks, which makes sense because these are a -1. Snug those up, and same thing we did with the rear. A little bit of motor spray. Clean up these hinge pins just to get the machine oil off. They're a little sticky. Then we check them. I put the inserts in. Want to make sure these are nice and smooth. Like I said before, sometimes they can be a little bit crooked when you put them in, and they'll be, see, like this one. Well, it's really close, but I'll just kind of move it around a little bit just to make sure it's super free. Yeah, this thing's falling out like what you want. So now we'll go ahead, put the front arms on just like the rear. I want to check and see how much wiggle room there is. So I will go ahead, screw this all together in the front. And see if there's too much slop in these front arms like there was in the rear. And there is. So you can see got quite a bit up and down movement there. Pretty much the same as what the back had. So it's always good to have a bunch of extra clutch shims on hand anyways, so I'd order yourself a few packs of those because they can come in handy for a whole bunch of little things. So, whoops. Try not knocking all my screws off here. I'll look for kind of my medium size ones since I have different sizes thrown into my clutch box. There we go. All I have is like thin and thick ones. Darn it. This front is not quite as much room as the rear, so I might just do one thick one front and rear. I don't know. All right. I'm gonna do one thick, one thin. Put it on there. Put it all back together, see how it feels. You might be saying, oh man, that's kind of annoying. You keep taking things apart and putting them back together. Well, guess what? If you want your car built right, it's gonna take some time. If you're worried about doing this one screw and extra time and checking this, and this is bothering you, you should probably find a different hobby, because RC cars is a lot of tedious work and you kind of just have to accept it. Boom! We're solid. Alright, so if you can see that, just has a little bit of play up and down, but we're locked in pretty good. So now I'm going to move on to the sway bar. Got the sweet new rubber sealed sway bar bearings. Find my 1.5. Put the set screws in here. And then, since I'm using these aluminum sway bar, I don't know, collars maybe you want to call them, make sure those have Loctite on them. Got a 2.3 front bar, which is what I normally run. Comes in the kit, which is awesome. Push that thing through. Try to get it nice and centered. Like I said on the rear, you don't want to bind up these sway bar bearings. Needs to have a little bit of you know, room to move around so it's not all bound up, putting too much pressure on the bearings. All right, got that nice and free. Get that out of the way. Now we can work on these new spindles. And since I haven't gone through any actual manual with these spindles, I'm gonna just take a little peek, see what it says here, because somewhere in this bag we got these little silver washers, like a cone washer. Not really sure where those are supposed to go. Don't see them yet. Don't see them. Alright, so with these new spindles, it's pretty cool that they made everything kind of like color coded on these, which is pretty sweet. You don't want to get them mixed up with these other pins, which are for going through the caster block to mount into the arm. But yeah, so you have black pins, silver pins, and you have a black bushing and a silver bushing. And so those are like the spacers, and then you have to use the colors all matching and working together so that everything works right, which is pretty sweet. I feel like Tekno does a really good job at making stuff pretty darn user friendly, especially coming from Kyosho. It's not, you know, to bash on them or anything like that. You know, obviously a big part would be the language barrier there, but their manuals were just a little bit more difficult. You know, hardcore racers would build them without huge issues or anything, but the manuals were definitely more challenging, which is kind of why I build cars without manuals. That's just kind of the way that I'm used to, the way that kind of I just like to do it. But these Tekno manuals are pretty darn sweet. Give a lot of good detail on how you should do things, and yeah, just really walk you through the whole process, which I'm sure is a huge help to anyone new getting into the hobby. Alright, so I put my blue Loctite on all my screws that I'm going to be using to secure these spindles into the caster blocks. So make sure we have this flat side here up, because that is the top, and we run axle height down, which is how the kit says, just making sure. Yep. So that is the black washer, or the black bushing, which is the thicker one, goes in the top. Silver, which is the thinner bushing, goes in the bottom. And this is a right, so I need the right caster block. Silver and silver, black and black. Make sure you got the flat sides sticking to the outside so that when you put the screw in, they lock in to the flat sides on those pins. And the size of screws that they have, you basically screw them all the way in, and just tighten right up. And these pins, you can pretty much hold them all the way up. You don't have to worry about it being bound up or anything. It's a pretty awesome design, honestly. No more bearings, no more worried about screwing up your threads. They did it perfect where the play is perfect in them. And yeah, that's a freaking slick design right there. Stoked on that. I'll go ahead and add my steering plate. The kit says to run the B plate. I run the C plate, which has the 3 little cuts. The kit has the 2 cuts for the B, and if you got the A option, it will just have the 1 cut. So I opt for the C. That just kind of provides me with the feeling that I want with my steering. Go ahead. I use the kit steel screws here. Snug it down by hand. Alright, so now we go to the left side. Make sure you have the top up. Do black on top, silver on the bottom, because I'm running it in the lower position there, the lower axle height. Match silver to silver, and match black to black. Make sure the flat parts are sticking out. Like I said, you can pretty much hold these pins all the way down. You don't have to worry about, you know, too much pressure on anything getting pinched or anything like that. They designed these very nicely so that everything's a great fit. It's pretty much dummy proof putting these things together, which is always helpful. It's even the pin kind of has a cutout on each side too, where you can definitely tell if the flat side is sticking out so that you know you are locked in. Go ahead, put my steering plate on this side. Man, we're almost done with both these clips here. They're turning out nice. Speaking of nice, reminds me, Megan got me a Father's Day card or a birthday card or something one time, and it was like something to the effect of how NASCAR got started. And it's like, oh man, that's a nice car. Nice NASCAR. I don't know, kind of a cheesy, funny card, but it made me laugh. A nice car. Gotta have that southern twang. Alright. Getting back on subject here. So now we got both caster blocks with spindles ready to go. So now we use same pin design as the 2.0 on the front here, but instead of the set screws we use these button head screws again. They're the correct length to just screw all the way in. These must be like a 6 if I had to guess without looking at the manual. A 5, an M3 by 5. And these, you want to make sure you are in contact with the flat spot, and we are. Tighten these bad boys down. Make sure you have just a little bit of movement front and back. It's nice and smooth, not bound up or tight. Move over to the right side and do that all over again. Flat side out. Oh yeah, this thing is going together good. Get those nice and tight. Good movement. Super nice and free. Boom. Front end looking good. We're pretty much down to the turnbuckles. got all the rod ends here. I'll probably just do one and then stop the video and do the rest and start us back. Show you what I do. I use like a O-ring grease. Some people use chapstick, whatever. Get a good amount on the threads. And it takes a little bit of pressure to get these started. What's cool, if you have both of the Tekno camber wrenches, you can even start these a little crooked like what I did, and then as you go in, you know, kind of start straightening them out. Then, so you use the small one for the turnbuckle, and then you use the big side, and it goes over the rod end. So you can screw them on like that. Works out pretty good. What I normally do, I screw them on right kind of before the threads disappear, so then I can have pretty accurate side to side. You really want to try to get your tie rods as centered as you possibly can, so that if you are moving your locations around, you don't end up with, you know, one side barely in, one side in, you know, more, because, you know, you don't want to have a chance of it like getting ripped out, whatnot. So this is the front, so it kind of has that goofy looking end, which is a little bit harder to use that tool for. I might have to use my finger on this one. Because it doesn't quite have the full cutout like the other one does, but I'm making it work. Try to get them matched pretty evenly. I think I can go a little bit more on this one. There we go. Pretty centered there. And one down.